Welcome back, everyone. I wanted to do a quick intro before I get started with the video proper this time. This video is on a more negative side than I typically like to portray. And this video is covering Carbonite boxes. And I just want to make it clear up front. Both my guest and I are coming from a place of wanting the game and collector Carbonite boxes to succeed. I know this video is over 2 hours long, so it might shock you to hear that we actually ran out of time talking about this topic. And if you, the audience, want, I'd actually love to have my guest on again so we could continue this discussion. I know we both could probably talk for 4 or 5 more hours on this topic. But because we ran out of time, we didn't really get to dig into the solutions to Carbonite boxes nearly as much as I wanted to. We still cover them, but the majority of the videos talking about issues with Carbonite boxes, and we do touch on solutions here and there, but not nearly as in depth as I would like to. However, I want to assure you that all of this is really coming from a place of endearment, not malice, for both of us. We both have a vested interest in this game succeeding. And lastly, I understand at times it will sound like we're saying we want the game to be expensive, which is not true. Just, we don't want it to feel terrible that you open a $300 box and get unsellable cards that a lot of people don't want. It's really a shame when your big hits can't even be sold, and I know it's running players out of the game, and that's kind of the genesis of this video. Now, with all that being said, I wanted to do a quick thank you to my YouTube members Drew Kirkpatrick, Reviki, and Ganix for you all finding my dumb bad Kylo takes worthy of financial support. That is just beyond me, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you'd like to continue this discussion on Carbonites further, please join my Discord and at me there. And of course, please support my guest, who will introduce himself shortly by subscribing to his channel. The link will be in the description below. Welcome back, everybody. So as you've seen, I've recently posted 2 Carbonite unboxing videos, and in the past, I've actually probably been the target audience for Carbonites, but I've actually started to be a little bit, kind of disillusioned and upset with them recently. So I figured I was going to go ahead and make a video talking about what I like, what I don't like, what can be improved, and what should stay in Carbonite packs. But I brought a special guest with me, somebody who is probably definitely more experienced with this kind of side of things, with card value, opening, what's worth it to open. Friend of mine, Steven. So I will let him go ahead and introduce himself, introduce his channel, talk about himself a little bit, and introduce the topic.
All right. Well, thank you so very much for inviting me on your channel. I do very much appreciate it. My name is Steven. I run a YouTube channel called I Open TCGs, where I open TCGs for the most part. But recently, in the last couple months, I kind of just make Star Wars rant videos. And a lot of the times I do talk about the product and what's good and bad about the product. Your channel, of course, is mainly focused on the gameplay and things like that. I don't know nothing about gameplay. Like, I've played the game a little bit. I played in set 1 and set 2, but I like opening stuff and I like collecting stuff. And I also am a seller. I sell on Whatnot, so I open a lot of boxes for a lot of people. But I do want to put that out there because whenever I voice my opinions, there's always people that need to understand it comes from a very specific side of things, right? Not a hardcore player, but more of both a collector and also a seller. And that's
Yeah,
going to be important for our conversation today.
I think that's a really good point because and this I want to say, like, this isn't rehearsed. Like, when I asked Steven, like, hey, you can disagree with me. Like I said, I'm gonna have points. I kind of sent you ahead of time the points so you can, like, they're not like a surprise, but I'm kind of open to any, like, if I say something that's stupid that you disagree with and you think, like, listen, from a collector's side, from an opener side, from a seller's side, that's a dumb idea. Like, I want that feedback. But I think what's going to be interesting is, from a player side and a collector side, we kind of agree on a lot, I would say, when it comes down to this, which, gives credibility to both of us. Because, right, the people that are collectors are like, well, you don't know anything. And the people that are players that are saying, you don't know anything. Well, I think we're all agreeing here. So I think it's going to be interesting as we go forward.
Absolutely. I mean, when you sent me over your list, I was like, it's like I wrote it almost. It's you're
Yeah.
in my brain, you know.
Well, when I watch your videos, I'm like, I've never seen a video where I'm like, yeah, I agree with 100% of it. And I would say the videos on like how to improve carbonites from both Jump to Light Speed and Legends of the Force that you've done, I've like, yeah, everything makes sense. Everything's great. The the numbers that you make that you like portray are all things like I would want to see. So I think let's just start right into it. I'm gonna let you go first on like what do you think is the biggest problem with carbonites? I know you have a lot of opinions, so just go ahead and like start talking about what you think could be changed, what's wrong, what you like, and I'll just tack on from there.
All right. Well, this is a big swing. So
Yes.
I've been a little bit away from Star Wars ever since making my video. I've been kind of focused on other games. And in that time, when I made my Legends of the Force Carbonite box review, I was pretty down on the product. But I think given even more time, I feel harsher about it than maybe I should. So if this comes off as really harsh, it is kind of just where my mindset is right now. But I think the biggest problem with Legends or with Carbonite boxes in general is that um, Fantasy Flight Game does not know how to make a randomized product well. Um, and it is especially true with Carbonite boxes. Uh, One, they should have never existed in the first place. I think it was pure corporate greed that created these boxes. And it's been two sets now, and I believe they are complete failures of a product. The goal of a collector edition or Carbonite edition should be specifically for collectors, right? That is the entire point of these boxes. And I think it has failed on pretty much every uh, now failed in different ways. Some are like slight fails, some are major fails, but I think overall it is a complete failure to get collectors excited about the product, excited about the game, wanting to come into the game, and things like that. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about way more specifics on why that's the case in this talk, but that is kind of my general sentiment on carbonites, which is that they don't do what they're supposed to do. And I do want to remind people that they only exist because of corporate greed and the fact that they still MSRP for $300. It never should have cost $300. And the fact that we as a community kind of accepted that wholeheartedly is a little sad, but that's kind of a tangent.
Yeah, so I'll come off maybe a little bit less harsh, but kind of the same conclusion. So I believe I am the exact person carbonites are made for. I a little bit more well off. I've got, a higher paying job. And I have impulse buying. I purchased in set 1, I think I purchased 2 carbonite cases and or, Jump to
Mhm.
Lightspeed, I think I bought 2 carbonite cases. Legends of the Force, I bought 2 carbonite cases, and I'm friends with somebody else who did the same, and maybe even to a more extent, right? They bought more than I did, and you think about that, that's $2,500 per set on
Mhm.
carbonites that I spent, and um, so I'm gonna say I'm the target audience. Big Star Wars fan, big TCG fan. I love the game. I go to Galactics, like I do everything, right? I make
Yeah.
YouTube videos. I told my friends this, and I'm going to put it on record now. I probably am going to buy Carbonites strictly for the channel. If I wasn't running a YouTube channel, I don't think they're worth it, and I don't think people should buy them if they remain how they are right now. I think, and that's coming from somebody who's, I would say, the target audience for it.
Mhm.
I don't even want to buy them, and you open them up, and yeah, they feel great when they're opening, but then when you're done, you're like, man, I don't like the art kind of sucks. The cards aren't powerful. I have to throw half of them away because they're foils. Like they don't feel great. Like they feel great in the moment, but when you're done, like you're like, man, I should have just bought 3 boxes instead of 1 carbonite box.
Yeah, I mean, I watched your video comparing like three regular boxes with one carbonite box, right? Um, And I believe at the end of that video, they kind of had similar-ish value, right?
I would say $4. I think there was like $4 a difference between the two.
Right, right. And I would say Legends of the Force has probably the best booster box, regular booster box value in a while, right?
Yes,
Probably
yes,
not
100%.
since like super early set two or something like that.
I would say it would go this set, Legends of the Force, and then Spark of Rebellion, which is set one. Or Spark is better than like those are 1 and 2. I don't know which order they're in, but those are definitely 1 and 2.
Right, right, right. Like if this was like Jump to Lightspeed or something like that, like it would feel very different to make that comparison. So I think like even in the best of like regular booster box value, right? Because Darth Vader's pumping and Anakin's pumping and constructed lightsaber pumping right now, right? The fact that even got close is crazy. Which I guess is a good sign for the set overall, but I think we'll talk about that later. But I totally agree. Like I opened a lot. I'm a degenerate opener. That's why I started my channel. That's why I started selling as well, because I wanted to open stuff. Like for set four, I probably opened 20, so like 5 cases of Carbonites. Prior to that, I opened probably 3 or 4 regular cases for every set for myself, and I don't even play. I don't even sell cards really. They're just all like on my table,
Right.
wasting away.
Right.
I am like a pure degenerate when it comes to opening things, um, uh, and so I feel like generally I am in tune with what games feel really good to open, and it almost always comes down to value. Now, um, just to be clear, there's probably someone writing a comment right now that's like, "Well, you always lose money when you open boxes, right? Buy singles," and you are right, right? You always should buy singles if you're really really worried about making the most of your money, right? And for the most part, all boxes are you're going to lose money, but there's a big difference between losing 10% of your money on average or 20% of your money on average versus 50%, right? And there's definitely some times, not sometimes, oftentimes, I think when you're opening Carbonites, where if you just whiff a cereal and you get maybe one of the lower end showcases, you're going to completely bomb that value. And that happens quite a lot, actually.
Yep. Yep.
Especially if you open one box at a time, which is what most people do, right? Most people aren't buying cases and cases and cases, right? To even out their odds. Now, the opposite is also true, right? Like there's so many Facebook posts and Reddit posts of people opening one box and getting, a lot of stuff in that box. Like the opposite is also true in that sense.
So,
But go ahead.
Sorry to I interrupt a lot. I apologize. But I went to Connecticut for a pre-release, and we pressured a guy who's never bought a Carbonite. I don't think he's ever bought a Carbonite pack in his life. And we were like, buy a box. Just do it. We're all gonna do it. You should do it. Like peer pressuring really hard. And so it was basically like 3 degenerates and a guy that's like responsible. So the 3 degens were me and 2 other people. So 2 of them got nothing. They hit literally nothing. I don't even think they hit good legendaries. It was like a bloodbath. And then I hit a Revan showcase, and I was like, okay, I'm hyped, right? I got a $250 showcase. Like it's literally the one I wanted, so I felt good. The guy who first Carbonite product he probably ever bought hit a Kylo showcase, a Talzin showcase, and a Snoke showcase all in one box. So like I've seen that whole range, and he walked away feeling great, and 2 other people walked away feeling terrible. And you're right. Like I've opened one where my only hit in air quotes was like a Rio Durant showcase, which is $20, which is less than a normal legendary.
Yeah, yeah. You can easily do that. There's so many prestiges. You can easily not hit any of the top 3 ones, which like lowers the average, right? Once you take out, Anakin and Darth Vader and maybe Yoda or something, right? Like the average price goes down quite a lot, and very easy to go 12 packs and not open a single one, right?
Yeah, I mean, so like to put it into perspective, I guess for people out there, I made a spreadsheet of like all of the prestige prices, And Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker from Legends of the Force, roughly their tier 1 and tier 2s are actually pretty close in value. The next ones down kind of have a little bit of a jump, but you have around a 40, if you hit either Anakin or Darth Vader, you get like $42 worth of value. And you're like, "Oh, that seems really good." Until you realize it's a 1 in 46 chance to hit one of them. Like, it is reasonable that you go, what, 3 boxes deep, and you're on your 4th box where you're hitting your, like, pack 46, you hit one Anakin or you don't hit any. Like, that's a real thing.
I mean, 100%, 100%. I mean, a big point in my review video is that there was only one actual real change, right, between last set's Carbonites and this set's, and that was that they increased the number of prestiges, right, from 36 to 46. And why they made that choice, I think, is one reason why it shows that whoever's in charge of making these products just fundamentally don't understand what makes a good collector product, but it has caused these kind of knockdown effects, right? Which is, the cards that you really want are indeed harder to get, but there's way more chaff. Like, I think generally Star Wars has a problem with way too many bad cards that are still hard to hit, right? Like legendaries, way too many bad legendaries, way too many bad prestiges that nobody wants, right? Way too many showcases that nobody wants. They have this perennial problem with they want the hit rate to be a certain rate, so they fill it with junk, and that seeps into every part of the product, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, especially because, like, they want. I guess they're almost at odds with themselves because they don't want people to feel bad when opening a Carbonite pack. So if you have a guy walks to a store, spends $30, gets one of these premium packs, right, $30, and they open it, they don't want them to, I guess, not get a prestige card and feel bad, like, "Oh, I didn't get anything. Like, why did I even buy this?" But the problem is, you get prestige cards that are like fake value because there are prestige cards out there that are 80 cents for a tier 2 prestige, which is 25% of all packs. 80 cents. Like, that's essentially, like, you shouldn't even have that in the game. Period, in my opinion.
100,000,000,000%, right? Like, again, I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what an alt art is, right? Because these are alt arts, right? A lot of games have alt arts. They do them in very different ways, right? The Japanese games do them in a very specific way versus kind of Western games that do it also in a very specific way. And nothing is special when you always get it, right? Like, that just is what you're saying, right? It's like
nobody's super if
it doesn't
everybody is, right?
exactly, and that is, again, not to reference my video a lot, but maybe your audience doesn't watch me. A lot of people don't watch me, but
A lot of people don't watch me
like,
either. It's fine.
that's one of the cardinal sins that I mentioned, which is having one prestige in a pack doesn't make any sense, right? It just will, by necessity, by math, make it way too common, right? And a lot of them are going to be worthless, right? Like, it feels bad that an alt art is $1 or less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that does sometimes happen in other games. Like, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in this recording, but I've been really obsessed with Gundam recently. And like, there are still alt arts in Gundam that are not worth too much, right? Or One Piece, or a bunch of the Japanese games, Pokemon. But it doesn't come in the amount, right, that happens in Star Wars.
Right. And I think, like, I'm trying to, so for the first time, literally yesterday, I opened a collector booster box of Magic the Gathering. I actually played my first Magic game yesterday. We went and bought some collector boosters and opened them. And you don't hit like a show, like, you hit good cards, but you don't hit a showcase in every pack, like what would be a prestige card, I guess, in this game. And I could be completely off on this, but the fact that you always open a prestige card, like, it actually,
Yeah.
if you want to collect them, you're like, "Man, this cool, I got a Sasay 10 80-cent card." Like, I don't even, like, you don't even register it that it's a banger card, because it's not. And it just feels like a participation trophy for spending $30 when You should have just bought 10 packs or what, 5 packs, 6 packs, whatever the price is right now to compare it to. Like, if you buy 6 packs, you're on rate for a legendary. Would you rather have that or an 80-cent card? Like, that's where you have to come to with some of these.
I mean, yeah. I mean, not to go too deep into specifics again, but like, one of my this is why I think it's unavoidable. Like anything we suggest for Carbonites, a lot of the suggestions are so deep into the genetics of when they started the game that I don't think it will ever be changed, right? And one of those things is there's too many versions of a specific card. But like, even if in an ideal world, right, it's more like a Magic collector box, and again, I don't open that Magic a lot, but I've talked to a lot of people that do. Similar to what you said, right? Like, there's a lot of cool things you can hit in a Magic pack. They're just not guaranteed per pack, right? So when you open a pack, you might feel bad, right? Because there's nothing special in that pack. But on the flip end, when you hit something that looks cool, that feels cool, that dopamine is a little bit different. And in in Carbonites, prestige tier 2s are supposed to be that, right? Like,
Right.
let's say they're like, whatever, we're sacrificing prestige 1s to the win, which is what they did. You should feel really awesome when you hit a tier 2 because they're twice as hard to hit. But the difference in price between tier 1 and tier 2 is almost nothing for most of the cards,
Yeah.
right? And that tells you, and that tells me that that people don't care, right? People don't really like, the collectors are not there for a multitude of reasons, right? We haven't talked about art yet, but art
Yeah,
is a
well, we'll
very
get
big
there.
part of this. But that tells you that they're not excited about this, right? They're not excited about prestigious, right? Maybe serialized, of course, is still has its own problems, but people are still excited, of course, when you hit a serial. But uh, the whole idea of these prestiges is that they picked this middle ground that was bad in both ways, which was guarantee the tier 1, so they're never really going to be worth much. And but also the cards aren't even that cool. So the tier 2 or the tier 2 versions are not even that much cooler than tier 1s. So people don't really want those either, right? And it's like, okay, well then why do these exist anyway? Like,
Yep.
which is kind of what I was trying to say in the very beginning.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And so, like, I'm trying to figure out what branch I want to go down right now, because we have you've opened up some doors here. So I think one of the things I want to do for the audience, and I want to, I should have said this at the beginning, but I I don't want this game to require $500 to play. Like, I'm happy that I can walk up to a new player and be like, listen, you can play with Darth Vader and build a deck that has a low floor of, like, you can pick it up, play it a couple times, and be good at the game, where you could go to locals and go undefeated. You can play Darth Vader for $50 and make a competitive deck that is, like, you can have fun with. You don't feel bad. You don't feel like a loser. I want that to stay in the game, and I think it's good for the game. But you do need the other side of it where FFG makes money. Because at the end of the day, if the game is great, but not profitable, it's going to die. So before we get into, like, anything else, dollars wise, like, both sides can happen together, but, like, both sides need to happen. And we're really missing the collector's side, I believe.
Yeah, no, that's a great caveat, and it's one I always try to make in my videos when I talk about value, because a lot of players misconstrue when we talk about value as investments, right? As in scalping, and we want to sit on a throne of products so that in 20 years it's going to be worth something, right? I want to sit on these Darth Vaders, and in 30 years it might be worth $1 million, right? Like, that is part of value. Don't get me wrong, right? That happens in Pokemon and Magic, anything with long-term value. But when we're talking about value, this is specifically about a collector product, right? We're not talking about with the regular game, right? So the collector product should only exist to bring in collectors, right? That should be the goal, right?
Yep,
And
I agree.
I do think it's important to, because I agree, like, this is why alt arts is important. So my other main game is Flesh and Blood. Flesh and Blood is one of the most expensive games to start playing. And that's because they do not do alt arts and they don't often do big reprints. And when they do, they're still kind of hard to get, right? So if you want to make a competitive deck in Flesh and Blood, some of them are cheaper, right? But generally, I think the average is like $300, $400, $500, $600, right? Depending on what deck you want. And that's like base rarity, right? So Star Wars is really cheap, which is good. Cheap brings in a lot of players. But one of the big things, and not to get on another tangent because you're trying to transition to somewhere else, but like
No, keep going.
I've made so many videos, and in every video I need to keep reiterating this because you do have a lot of players on your channel. And one of the constant fights that I have with players is that players think you only need players for a TCG to work. And that is just fundamentally not true.
Just look at Pokemon. Like Pokemon's the opposite, right? Low players, most sales. And it's one of the, biggest card games in the world. Now, you obviously don't want every card game to go that route. But sorry, continue. I just want to say, like, Pokemon's the exact point.
Of course. I mean, Pokemon's a great example. But pretty much every game, like any game you mentioned that's in the top 5, it's like collectors are the whales, right? If you play video games or something or a live service game, like the whales are the people like you, right? Like me, that we're not even whales. We're probably like dolphins, right? But like we're the ones buying up all this product, opening all this product, getting those singles out on the market, maybe, right? And allowing players to play as cheaply as possible, right? Like you buying $2,500 worth of Carbonites is worth a lot more to the bottom line of FFG, right? Than probably 30 players, right? 30 of those low rarity, I just want to play the game as cheap as I can players, right? Like there are so many examples of industries that don't even have players, right? Like sports cards and collectibles, right? Just in general, right? Like entire industries run on just collectors, and there are no industries that run just on low rarity entry level players, right? And I do think it's really important. That's why I keep banging the drum, which is like we need more collectors, we need more collectors, we need more collectors, and every set, I'm like even more disappointed, But anyways, transition to what you would like to transition.
Well, no, I think that was like it's a good point. And again, I just want to highlight like we both understand that games need to be cheap but also collectible. And I don't think either of us are arguing, and I'm just reiterating it because I know people are typing the comment because I already got the comment a few times when I was like doing research for the video. Literally everybody's like, do you want your game to be scalpered to hell and no packs available and all that? And I'm like, no, but I do want people who buy collector's editions, like I want people to go out and feel like I want to buy a collector edition if they have the means to do so and like want to do it, because I know from personal experience that that people that bought a lot of collector editions in the last 2 sets are not going to buy as much in the future. I already know that to be true. And if that keeps happening, do you really think FFG is going to keep like making the game? And I'll also say this before we transition fully. I talked to a local game store here where I live, and they told me, because I've been hearing whispers of this, and I wanted to ask like a firsthand source. I said, hey, is Star Wars selling well? And he said, no, it's a slow mover. Like because nobody wants to, and we'll talk about this, but Carbonite packs have kind of almost ruined normal packs, and Carbonite packs also aren't that great. So it's like the pack opening in general is actually not that great in Star Wars right now, in my opinion. So you have less people going to the store buying packs. You're going to have a lot of less stores supporting the game and like buying a bunch of product. FFG is going to be sitting on a bunch of product. And again, if it's not profitable, they're not going to keep doing it.
I mean, 100%. And I, again, because I've heard this so many times, everyone's local environment is different, right? So oftentimes the biggest defenders of the game, right, the biggest people that don't believe the criticism live in an area where Star Wars is doing fine, right? Almost always, if you ask somebody positive or leaving positive comments, like how Star Wars do in your area, it's usually doing very well. And when you ask people that are a little bit sadder or more, more critical, oftentimes it's not doing super well, right, in
Right.
their area.
Right. And
And
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was like, and it makes sense in that sense, right? It makes sense. And to your point, right? Uh, uh, sorry, I'm trying to decide whether to launch
No,
into
you're
a
good.
story, but
You're good.
Flesh
Go
and
ahead.
Blood had this problem already, right? Flesh and Blood, if you don't know, Flesh and Blood's 5 years old. It's almost 6 years old, which is a very long time for a brand new TCG, especially one with no IP, right? It's
Right.
gone through its trials, it's gone through its tribulations, and one of the problems it had in the very beginning was extreme overprinting into some undesirable sets, and it literally tanked the game's growth for 3 to 4 years, right? Where if no store was willing to ever try Flesh and Blood ever again because they got burned once, right? And that is happening with Star Wars as well. There are so many stores, so many areas where they got burned. They got burned in Twilight, right?
Yep.
Maybe Shadows as well, and their community died out, and they're never gonna, no matter what, never going to. Right, that light is gone, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And given enough time, lights and lights and lights are closing, right? They need to do something with their product to make it more desirable again, which Flesh and Blood has done, but it took them 3 or 4 years to do so. And I don't personally believe FFG will make it out, but that's a personal opinion, right?
Right.
Which we can talk about later. But yeah, your thoughts.
So I've heard because I'm mainly an online TCG player. That's where I came from. This is actually my first like physical card game. And
Mm.
sorry, cat jumped on my desk. And the problem or the thing that I'm seeing, because I do a lot of research for my videos, despite what all my commenters think, um, Flesh and Blood.
Always the commenters,
Yeah,
man. They're
right.
always the
They're
commenters.
always out there. Flesh and Blood, from what I understand, is a very regional game, exactly like you said, right? Some places,
Mhm.
it's great, it's awesome. Other places, there's like one person, one store, the store goes away, and then, you don't have a game anymore because you can't, like, where are you going to play it?
Mhm.
And Star Wars, despite what people want to believe, is like that. I mean, if you look at one of the bigger content creators, I think Unplayable, one of those hosts, at least last time I heard, they live in an area where it's like their PQs, like their tournaments are like 16 players. Like they get a weekly showdown or like a weekly play is like 6 players. Where I'm
Mhm.
fortunate, where we have 30 players at the game store 10 minutes from my house, right? So where I'm at, everybody's positive about the game because, like you said, we all see it growing. We see new players coming in. We'll give new players rares and stuff to get their collection going, to make their decks good and talk to them and be welcoming. But like, if I want to get into the game and I'm in nowhere, Iowa, and there's 3 people that go to the local game store every Tuesday, and maybe those 3 people are super into the game, so I try and show up. They're not that welcoming. The game's not going to grow, and it's very regional, and that's gonna be an issue. Is like any misstep, like you said, if that local one store says, you know what, we got another Twilight of the Republic type set. Why would I ever buy another product? We got Riftbound coming out. You've got all these other TCGs that are just better and like bigger. I'm not gonna support Star Wars anymore, and then it dies out, and then the game's just gonna get canceled. Like that is a real possibility that I think some people are like denying.
I mean, I fully agree. The one thing that I will say is that, despite how negative I am about the game, I don't think it will die unless, sorry, I don't think it will die in the next 5 years unless a licensing issue happens, which is a real possibility. I just think it will forever decline slowly but surely.
Right.
As in, it will never reach the heights that it could have, right? And I know a lot of people. We just got back from Galactic, and I do want to ask you about that later on.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people at Galactic, right?
They
I
sold
think it was
out.
a very
Yeah, they sold out at
successful event.
Galactics. Yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of hype there, but three, I don't know how many people were actually there. 5,000 people, 10,000 people, right? Like, I don't know, playing and hanging out and doing side events,
Mhm.
whatever it is. That is still not that many people in the grand scheme of all things, right? So, because I have seen a lot of comments that are like, "Oh my God, it's so successful. Things are doing super well," and I think it's great that a lot of people showed up for Galactics. Um, but I don't think it's a sign of the game blasting off like Team Rocket. I think it's a good showing of where Star Wars is now. But I do really worry about next year and the year after that and the year after that and the year after that, right? Um, that is worrisome to me. But we can talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah. Well, with Galactics, what I think it was a successful event, and I believe they hit like they sold out, so they hit capacity, and I think it was around 3,000 people showed up to the event, and the main tournament was 2,200 people. Uh,
Mhm.
but I'm really interested to see because what happened with a lot of people, including myself, but I had other life stuff happen. Like everybody built up to Galactics and trained for Galactics and everything, and then
Mhm.
Galactics hit. You played Galactics, you had fun, and then you went home. And a lot of people took it easy for like till now. I know a lot of
Yeah.
like really competitive people that I talk to, and they're like, "Yeah, haven't really played Star Wars in since Galactics ended. I'm like a little bit burnt out of it," which I think that's gonna happen. I'm just interested
Mhm.
to see next Galactics. There's a couple things they're doing next
Yeah.
Galactics that unless it's clarified, I'm not the biggest fan of. They're making it invite only, and I'm hoping that
Mhm.
just means they're keeping it the same way. They're just doing it like I think they're just. I hope that they're just misspeaking. But if Galactics is invite only, I think that's a big miss. But that's a whole different conversation. Um, I think SWU is growing. I think this set was great. I think next set might be great. It's just people need to buy the product, right? And that's kind
Yeah.
of what we're harping on here. Um, but okay, so finally that transition that I wanted to do a long time ago. I'm just it's not a clean transition, but I wanted to ask you, and I think you know the answer because I sent it to you, but I'm gonna do it for the audience. So I'm gonna fake it for the audience. So, uh, of all the normal cards, right? So no hyperspace, no foil, no hyperfoil cards. The most expensive, like non-showcase, like base level card is Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight from set 1. And
Mhm.
it's currently sitting at $45 as like the normal price, which is, that's a pretty expensive card. You would need 3 of those typically to run a blue hero deck. So, you're kind of what, at 135ish dollars. So my question to you and to the audience is how many non-serialized prestiges are more expensive than that base version card? Because I think, and maybe before we give the answer, do you think there should be some like what amount of prestiges should be more expensive than the highest base cost card? Is that something that should be common, uncommon? Am I off my rocker here?
I think that's a valid question, which is like, because Carbonites exist, right? Dedicated collector boxes exist. There should be cards, right, that are worth more uh, than the best regular card, right?
Right.
Um, it, I will say it's a little apples to oranges just because there's no Carbonites for that set. I think if
That's
there
true.
were Carbonites for that set, Luke Skywalker would be $20 or less. But we don't really live in that world where that happened, right?
Right.
But when you looking through your thing, I thought I would have guessed maybe five, like
Right.
maybe five prestige foils, not regular prestiges, right? Maybe like a Darth Vader or an Anakin right now, but I would guess five.
Right. And the answer is 0. So as of right now, as of August 9th, when I'm recording this, 0 prestiges, foil or no foil, are more expensive than normal Luke Skywalker. Now, they are close, so we'll get into that. But the fact that even cards that are more playable, like Anakin and Darth Vader, that Steven just talked about, like the prestiges are less than the normal Luke Skywalker. And yes, it is apples to oranges because you're right, there are no prestiges for it. But still, I think that's kind of like that to me with jump to light speed with the horizontal spaceships and uh,
Mhm.
Darth Vader and Anakin like popping off and like being great in competitive play. The fact that Luke Skywalker, which is still like it's in one of the best decks as a 3 of,
Mhm.
but like it still shouldn't be that crazy expensive or like compared to prestiges. I think prestiges should be like the good prestiges should be way more expensive than Luke Skywalker to me. And they're just not. So the other question with Luke Skywalker before we move on are so Luke is sitting at $45. How many showcases are cheaper than Luke Skywalker? Because showcases are what 1 in 12 boxes normal or 1
Mhm.
in 3 boxes or 1 in 2. You know more than I do here in collectors. So can you
It
go ahead.
it should be 1 and 2-ish. Yeah, one
Okay.
and two-ish. Yeah.
So it costs to put in perspective because I like to put things into perspective because we talk about boxes. Let's talk about dollars. That's in normal. That's $1,200. In Carbonite, it's $600. So 1 in 6. Like so, if you spend $600 on average, you should get a showcase. How many showcases are cheaper than just a card you can pull in a normal box? 6. There are 6 showcases that are supposed to be hits that you would have to spend $600 on to
Mhm.
on average to get that are like $40 or even $20. Like it's I think that is bad. That is really like because I'm a degenerate. Like I go on the whatnot streams and I've bought quite a bit of cards from Steven specifically. And I just know like when we're sitting there and we're picking packs and we're buying packs, right? It's
Mhm.
it's always, flip to the showcase and you get, oh, everybody's like clapping like, oh, he got a GI showcase. That's awesome. But then you realize like, wait, a normal Anakin legendary, which we don't get as hype for, is more expensive and less
Mhm.
rare than a Grand Inquisitor showcase from set 5.
Crazy, crazy. Um, yeah, I mean, I will say, it is inevitable, again, due to the setup of the box, right? That there are going to be showcases that are worth really low because by design they print so many liters every set that a bunch of them are dog duty, right? Um, but to be clear, that's their own fault for setting it up that way, right? Because I there's always this two-step copium that I hear from people, right? Which is like, well, of course there's going to be bad ones, and it's like, okay, well, who designed it that way, right? And then they don't get to that part, right? Which is FFG designed it that way. Maybe if they didn't print so many bad legend leaders, right? When you got a showcase, they would be hyped as hell, right? All of them, right? But I do think it's a travesty just how many showcases are worth not even less than, I mean, less than Luke is crazy, but less than $70, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it, again, we've tangentially mentioned this, but like Carbonites have destroyed showcase prices. I will say, as a little pro, the showcase prices for this set, Legends of the Force, have held much better than Jump. But I think that has more to do with the fact that people went absolutely crazy opening Jump Carbonites because it's the first set, right? Everybody was excited for it, and way, way, way less Carbonites were probably opened this set in comparison, and that's one of the reasons why the showcases have not tanked quite nearly as much. Um, but I actually do want to go a little bit back, which is you mentioned Luke Skywalker is $45, $45, right? And again, I already pre-know there's somebody in the comments like, yeah, but it's really hard to get Sparkle Rebellion boxes, right? Like they're more expensive. Of course, the legendaries are more expensive. There are more regular Luke Skywalkers on the TCG Player Marketplace right now than a regular Darth Vader from the newest set. There are
Wow.
like it is not extremely rare, right? Like really hard to get these Luke Skywalkers. And so I do want to preface the counter to like there's going to be a comment that's like, yeah, but that's different. It's like, no, there's actually comparable supply, right? Luke's versus Darth's, right? So it's not like the $45 is $45 just because of lack of supply is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And I mean, so I'm trying to look because I didn't look this up before. Yeah, so I mean, a Spark of Rebellion booster display is $100, and a Legends of the Force is 75. So they're a little bit more expensive, but like you can still buy them for pretty close to MSRP. And if you wanted to pull more, and they've reprinted a bunch more. So like I agree with you, and I know that comment's also coming where they're like, yeah, Legends was this, Legends is, or not Legends, Spark is this, Spark is that. The other thing to know is like rotation is coming, and it's like this looming either good omen or bad omen depending on who you talk to. And as of today, we don't know if Luke is getting reprinted. So that $45 Luke Skywalker card that is, this really valuable card, in 6 months it could be worth nothing because
I do.
it
I'm
rotates
sorry,
out
go
of
ahead.
I was gonna say, because it rotates out of Premiere, it can't go in any decks. Less people want to buy it, so like the value could tank to nothing as well.
Yeah, yeah. I expect it to. I expect it to because I think their philosophy, right, which they've published on their website, is that Spark was too strong. They wanted that. I think again, I forget the exact wording, so please forgive me, because last time I tried to remember this, I was uncharitable to FFG. But I believe in their like year one musings or year one retrospective, they talk about how they really liked the power level of Twilight or something like that. Like they wanted their like base level of power level to be similar to Twilight, and that they acknowledged that they went a little too crazy with Spark. So I feel like they're probably not going to reprint too much of it, because that would go against that state of philosophy. But I could be wrong. I could be misremembering that.
I th-
I do want to look it up, but
I think the plan is actually to. I think the plan is Spark was too good, Twilight was
mhm.
too bad, and it's kind of
Okay.
like they want to do they noticed that like if you're playing a Star Wars game, you want to play with Luke Skywalker. You want your Luke Skywalker units to be on the board, and like removal's too good. So like units don't stick around. So you get to play all your really cool units, but they die instantly, so like they don't matter. Um but they did say one thing that I know I don't personally feel this way, but I will give a voice to the voiceless here. Some people say that the uh like Sparker Rebellion was a masterpiece. Like that's what FFG said in those musings. Like Sparker Rebellion was a masterpiece. But
Mhm,
then you had stuff like Boba Fett that needed banned, right? And you have
mhm.
like a bunch like you have Force Throw, which people think need banned. Um, and you have like cards like Hera, who never got support and thus like never is used. So like people are saying like, oh, it's not a masterpiece, they're too high on themselves. I think that's a little being unfair because I think starting a game from nothing and being as good as it was play wise is, I think it's something to be proud of. But yeah,
Mhm, mhm,
I think Spark, and we talk about this all the time in like my Discord and stuff. Spark is just too good. It's the cards, like one
mhm.
of the decks, like one of the best decks right now. I counted the cards. 44 of the 50 cards in the deck were Spark Rebellion cards. Like,
Okay, damn. Okay.
yeah, like it's that good.
Yeah.
Like in power creep's supposed to be in card games, and power creep is kind of not happening.
I mean, I think we could do a whole nother podcast interview. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like about rotation.
Yeah,
Specifically, yeah, like what is going to happen when Spark goes away? Like, probably better from a player perspective. I have my feelings on rotation generally as a general concept, for the collector perspective. Um, but it is crazy to hear that, because I knew it was strong and powerful and it was in a lot of decks. That much.
yeah, no, they're crazy, and like so, when we go back, there's so I'm gonna try and do another awkward transition here. Of the two prestige cards that are the most expensive, right? That's Anakin and Darth Vader, which I don't think is a surprise to anybody.
Mhm.
Because those are just like the best, like some of the best legendaries in the game. Besides those two prestige cards, the most expensive prestige is Darth Malik, which actually is not that competitive, but this is where you get into collectors. Darth
Mhm.
Malik is really, really cool from a like Star Wars fan perspective, right? It's people that
Mhm.
played Knights of the Old Republic, love Knights of the Old Republic, and this is the first like Legends canon card that we got. That's awesome and like really cool. The art actually is it's my favorite prestige art in this set, maybe even in the game. And that's the third most expensive prestige card. And
Mhm.
the question is to the audience again, um, how many base form cards, so like again, no hyperspace, no foil, are more expensive than Darth Malik? And that's Luke, obviously, that we already talked about. Force
Mhm.
Lightning, Poe from set 2, the legendary, Darth Vader from this set, Darth Vader from Spark of Rebellion. Then you have Crate Dragon, Constructed Lightsaber, and Millennium Falcon from Spark of Rebellion. So you have 4 legendaries from Spark of Rebellion that are more expensive than the third most expensive prestige card. And that just goes to show you how powerful Spark is, but also how like
Yeah.
prestige is still not holding value. Even like collector prestiges like Darth Malik is.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these stats that you're showing, like I mean, it really cements what most of us already knew, which is just that it's a player-driven game, and it has been a player-driven game since early set one. Um, and it is hard to have a collector-focused product in a player-driven game, right? And again, there's so many different things FFG could have done to get us to this point, but like and what's crazy to me is that, like you said, Star Wars fans are collectors by fucking trade. Or I'm sorry, I don't know if
Yeah.
I can swear,
Yeah, go ahead.
but like it is in their blood. Entire industries are there because people want to collect Star Wars cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that they can't even get those people to be interested in this game is, well, A, I think they haven't even been doing like targeted advertising to those people, A, and B, um, it just again shows a failure of this product in this type of environment, right? Which is all of the cards that you talk about that are expensive, whether they're prestige or not, it's because they're playable and they're really good. If they're not playable, they're not really good. As you said, Darth Malik is maybe the shining example of collectors being collectors, and it's like barely an example.
So there's one other example, and it's kind of similar. Is the Darth Revan showcase? And actually, this is a good point. I got to get to my point in the document here that I set up. It's gonna take me a second to find it. Maybe I'll just have to send it blind. Um, of the showcases that are like the top. So I looked at the most expensive showcases, top 10, and this goes back to like Prestige's killing the showcase value. Top 10 of the showcases, 5 are from Spark of Rebellion, and people are gonna say, well, again, Spark is broken. Actually, some of those showcases are like Princess Leia, which
Mhm.
isn't she's not a meta leader, but she's an iconic character. Then you have 2 from Shadows of the Galaxy, which is set 2, 2 from Twilight of the Republic, and then one showcase is from either Jump to Lightspeed or Legends of the Force, and that is Darth Revan from Legends of the Force because he's the collector showcase, right? He's the guy that's
Mhm.
like, oh, I love Knights of the Old Republic. I'm a 30-year-old man who played Knights of the Old Republic 80 times, and Darth Revan's my favorite character, and I'm gonna get the Darth Revan showcase. And I'm gonna say this too, while I'm on it. They messed up, in my opinion, Darth Revan in the game, in the card game. They they made him so underpowered that people have been trying to make Revan work, and there's like a deck that maybe is, it's it's okay, but they should have made Darth Revan the powerhouse. Like I think they should have pushed Darth Revan to be like the Mother Talzin of this set, because Mother Talzin is probably the best leader in this set. I know people are going to tell me that Kylo's the best leader, but that's for another video. Um, I think Revan should have been up there as like the top leader because his showcase is the 10th most expensive showcase, or up there, and he isn't even good. If he was good, his
Mhm.
showcase would be $600, like easy.
Right, right.
And if
Like
you,
when
oh,
designing it, right, put together all these factors, right, of like desirability, character, right, power level of the thing, and also make the showcase really badass. Which, you know, our opinions may differ. I think generally showcases are terrible, but I think Revens is pretty cool in the grand scheme of things. They could have had a home run, as you said.
Yeah, and it would have been like the easiest home run ever because like you can tell what cards are going to be good ahead of time. Like people
Mhm.
know what cards are going to be good. They could have made Darth Revan like the Mother Talzin because I know people like Talzin, but she's not Darth Revan. She's not Anakin Skywalker. She's not Luke Skywalker. Like a super big Star Wars nerd might know who she is, but people like my dad know who Luke Skywalker is, right? Luke Skywalker
Yeah.
needs to be the powerhouse of these sets. And we're finally starting to get that with Darth Vader being a meta leader. But Kylo Ren versus Mother Talzin is the finals in at Galactics. Like Kylo Ren's a cool character. Mother Talzin's an unknown character, and you have
Mhm.
eyes that like the finals of Galactics were watched by people who didn't play SWU. And it would have been so much better, in my opinion, if it was, Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader versus Emperor Palpatine. Like something
Sure.
iconic characters. Um, but actually, since you're talking about art, I know you have opinions on it, and it is one of my topics. So I believe they did some missteps, and I'm generally more positive on art. But I
Mhm.
just want you to go off for like 10 minutes on your thoughts on the art and the fingers and the faces.
You know, I won't go off for 10 minutes, but what I will say is that, I agree actually with the common sentiment that the general art of Star Wars has gotten a lot better since set one. Um, but I believe that most of that progress is in the regular cards, and it is not in the cards where it should have been in, right? I think the design philosophy of showcases is a failure. Um, I think there are cool showcases. That's not me saying that they're all bad. But I think that this hole that they put themselves in, which is that a showcase needs to look like this way, right? Which is character a mid frame, looking left or looking right, or holding a gun left, holding a gun right, smiling like it's a very non-dynamic template. And then you add into the fact that, again, this is not meant as harassment towards anyone that works at FFG. I don't think you should harass them. This is just my opinion. I just think whoever is deciding the direction of the art of the showcases just fundamentally does not understand what is good looking. I think that's really harsh. Um, Honestly, I think I said that in a very the kindest way, which is that every set, at least half the showcases, I think are uh, here's the mean thing, which is I think Star Wars fans have been collectively gaslit for 30 years into expecting bad art. Specifically, I think anybody who collects Topps cards has just been beaten on the head. They don't even know what's good anymore. Okay, any of those Topps collectors, they're just been beaten into thinking like generic stance and chrome background is good, right? But when you look at TCG landscapes, when you look at some of the cards that Magic is producing, Pokemon's producing, Gundam is an absolute smoke show. It is disgusting how much effort they put into like one of their lowest rarity foils. Okay, um, every other card, like Flesh and Blood, every other card game is going above and beyond with their art, with their foiling, with their treatments. And Star Wars continues to be some of the most boring, some of the least exciting, and some of the outright ugliest art I've ever seen. I think it is absolutely criminal. Speaking of Luke Skywalker, that Luke Skywalker showcase in the last set, like that is one example of probably 30 that I can name that is just an absolute travesty, right? Um, and that's my I think that the ship art was great, but the ship treatments were not that great, right? I think there could have been a lot more cool stuff with the ships, with foiling, with you know, uh, I'm not a huge fan of the showcase like DNA strand foiling. I think, as you heard in a long spiel in my video, like Topps chrome art in this set is just a major middle finger to people.
Yeah, and the Topps chrome art that you're talking about is like the force, like it's still image guy on top of like wavy background that's all one color, right? Like when you say
correct,
yeah, and I
yes,
go ahead.
oh no, sorry, yes, which the majority of the prestige cards in the newest set are like, right? I think that's a middle finger, but it's an extra middle finger, like a triple middle finger, with the fact that you can tell that they took a lot of the good art and made it Galactic Championship cards.
I was
like cards
yep.
that should have been in this set. I think that's a triple middle finger, and it is, again, beyond me that there is not more uproar about that in the community, because I think it's so blatant, so clear in this set. But
yeah, and I've
I
told
think
people
that's
that,
my art. Yeah.
and I didn't know. Like, so I was at my literal next question was, have you seen the Galactic Championship art? Because it is some of the most insane art that I've seen. So, for instance, for those who don't know, because I didn't make a Galactics recap, and maybe I should have or will do. So, Super Laser Blast, and this, this is also going to be a little bit of a story on a little bit of, issues on FFG's part, but the Super Laser Blast was the only card I wanted, besides the two new showcases. And if you don't know, I'll put it on screen. The Super Laser Blast art from Galactic Championship, and I know it's not a prestige card, but it was insane. It might be the best card art in the game, and it was going for equivalent of $10. So what people were doing is they were going in, they were buying all the Super Laser Blasts, and then walking over to the vendors. Or some people even claim that the vendors themselves walked over, because you could exchange money directly for tickets. So vendors were buying, or players or whoever was buying a Super Laser Blast for $10 and then walking over to the vendors and flipping them for $125. And somebody, this is the story, bought 80 Super Laser Blasts and flipped them for 8K. Like, and I don't know if that's true. I don't know, but like there was no tracking or anything like that. But like going back to your, so let's talk about the Prestige Darth Vader from this set. It is a Topps Chrome card, right? It's got the purple background. It's got Vader looking to the left with his lightsaber out, and the Galactic Championship Vader, which was in the silver packs, is insane. It's the art that they've been pushing everywhere. So if you looked at the Galactic Championship, you've seen it. I'll put it on screen, and that's going for $180 because it looks sick. And you're exactly right. I honestly think they took the best art, because they have Anakin, they have Leia, they have Darth Vader. They have all this sick art, and they put it in the Galactics Championship art, and then resold it to people that could only go to Vegas, which is, like you said, it's kind of a middle finger to those who can't afford to go to Vegas, or was doing other things and couldn't go, or lived in Europe or lived in Australia. Like it's a big deal, and it does suck that the best art was kind of gate kept from the audience.
I mean, I wanted to ask you about this as well, which is, you know, everybody I've talked to that went to Galactics had a great time. I mean, there were problems, right? As you said, this whole flipping thing was a problem, side events, things like that. But overall, so many people had such a great time. But what made me dislike Galactics so much is that, again, this is probably an uncharitable, harsh take, but I think that somebody at higher up needed to hit a certain goal of getting enough people to Galactic. And what they did was they were like, open up the exclusive art faucet, right? They're like, we got to keep opening up this faucet. We need to make sure that exclusive art, that people are going to come. And that to me rubs me the wrong way, which is that when you go to a big tournament, I get you should get some exclusive art. That makes sense. That's cool. Sometimes that exclusive art is in the package that you buy, right, for the event. Some of that is in the side events. That's fine. But what I hate about Galactic, about Gen Con, about these conventions is that there are so many people who just go to make money, and that should not be the point of these types of things. I guarantee you, a lot of people are going to go to the next Galactic Championships, and their first goal might be to play, but for a bunch of people, their first goal is to make money, which is not what these things should be. And I think the amount of exclusives that you could get at Galactic emphasizes that point to me. And I think that goes against the entire spirit of a Galactic Championship to me.
I agree, and so I'm not gonna say any names, but so the last story about the Super Laser Blast, I know like that was a rumor. I don't know that for certain. I will say I do know this happened for certain. It was not me, but it is somebody I know. So for those who don't know, you could at one point buy, so each event ticket was $5. So you could walk up, pay $5, get an event ticket that was supposed to be used to play an event. Well, they let you exchange those for, if you gave them 3 side event tickets, they'd give you 400 prize wall tickets, right? So I know a guy who basically paid, I believe it was $200, and you can check my math, but however much 5,000 tickets are, just find that conversion rate of side event tickets. I think it was around $200. You could buy both the Luke and Vader showcase, which are supposed to be like these really exclusive, like chase things for the event, at 5,000 tickets. So they bought both of them, walked to the vendor, flipped them, made I think 6 or 7, like, and flipped them for I think 400 a piece. So I think he got $600 profit. And the saddest part was, at the end, when everybody was trying to turn in their prize, like everybody hoarded the event tickets, and then there was like a 3-hour line the last day where people were waiting in line to go to the prize wall to turn in their tickets. And by that, I think I know the guy who got the last Vader showcase, but they sold out. There were a large contingent of people who could not buy a Vader showcase or a Super Laser Blast because of the flipping and all that. But I will say, before we continue, I just want to say, like, I did have a great time at Galactics because I got bounced early from the main event. So I did a bunch of side event grinding with my friends, and I had a play group there, so I knew everybody I was playing with. And I got my Vader showcase and my Luke showcase literally day one. So I wasn't stressing, and I was like having fun. So for me, I had a great time. And I know the people who like top 64'd also had a pretty good time because they had their own separate prize wall. And if you top 8'd, you got a playset of every card, or like of all the con cards. So there were some good things, but yes, I agree. The amount of just banger art that was exclusive to Galactics made people go out and then treat it as like, I'm gonna flip all this for profit and not actually go for the love of the game or just wanting like a specific art.
And to be clear, like, I don't blame those people for doing it.
Oh, I don't either. I don't either.
That's the system, right? That's the system that FFG put out, right? And so I blame FFG.
You can't blame somebody for seeing like, I can literally make $8,000 in 10 minutes. Like literally, you could make $8,000 in 10 minutes. You can't, like, you can't blame like, if I said you have to go kind of be a dick for 10 minutes, but I'll pay you $8,000. A lot of people would be like, yeah, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. And again, just to clarify, like, there are a lot of reasons why that happened, right? Like, one is the way that they set up that exchange rate. B, how many promos they had. C, the fact that they're banger arts, right? D, like, there's a lot of reasons. It's not just that the art is sick, but it definitely is, to me, a punch in the gut because people just spent collectively probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on Carbonite boxes, only to not see 80% of this art that is drawn in the same manner that the Prestige, not the Topps Chrome ones, but the other ones, right? Like the Malik and the Yodas, like the ones with actual backgrounds. Like, it's very clear that they had the same design philosophy, right?
Yes.
And I think that is the the ultra gut punch
It
when it
makes me
comes to that.
wonder if the Topps Chrome art also wasn't just like we're saving the good Galactic stuff, because there was set 1, set 2 cards that were that also had
Mhm.
like prestige level art. I think they just were like, hey, artists, we need you to make 50 prestige art cards. We don't have time for like, good prestige cards on top of it. Like, you had to think for this set alone, and I'm going to call Galactics as part of this set, right? Because it released at the same time. They needed, and I'm kind of spitballing here, but I bet you the number's close. 100 prestige level art. Like, that's insane. That's triple what prestige was in Jump to Lightspeed.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
that's a lot of art that needs to be done, and paying an artist. And I want to say, like, I know that we do clown on some art, and I know like the Jump to Lightspeed Luke Skywalker art is really bad, but that same artist makes real. I think he also was the one who made the Piet art, and that art is actually really good. So I'm not saying, even like, I don't want to make it sound like we're shitting on the artist as well. Like, they only, if an artist gets hired to do 10 different arts, they
Mhm.
only have so much time. And so I think I think FFG almost bit off more than they could chew, and they were like, well, we need to get all these really good arts, and we need people to come to Galactics, and the whales are gonna buy Carbonites anyway. I think that was I bet you that was in the staff meeting. Like, we need to incentivize people to come to Galactics, so put all the best art at Galactics. Whales are gonna buy prestiges anyway. And like, they're not wrong, but it does kind of burn the whales, like myself. Like, I am a
Yeah.
whale. I spend money on Carbonites. I bought a bunch of top 8 prizing from a friend of mine. Like, I have a playset of the con exclusives. Like, I'm a whale, and it's still like, I said, if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I'm not buying. If I am not opening any Carbonite product that's not on camera, and I think that's bad.
Yeah. 100%. And you are not saying this, but I have heard this said, and I do want to clarify or see if I'm trying to clarify a difference here, which is that, like, again, it is true that it's a lot of art. You got to pay a lot of artists, and it costs a lot of money. Okay, but I've heard so many people use that as an excuse for why the art is bad. But again, that is the system FFG chose to do. They did not have to decide to make 100 different prestige arts or whatever it is, right? They could have, for example, lowered the amount of prestige cards from 36 to 20 or something. Like, this is their own fault. And just because there's an maybe a reason, which personally I don't even buy, like, they know exactly how many cards they need to make. They know how much money they have. They know how many artists there are. They should be able to make a good decision based off of those factors, right? It should not be like a oopsie poops. We don't have enough money. Go
Where did
go
all
shit
this
out some
art come
art.
from? Where did all this art come from?
Yeah.
Who knew this? Yeah. Because they knew, like you planned, and I think so. I'm gonna transition really well into this next thing. The theme for Carbonites is bad, and I know you agree with me here, because you say it in your videos. The fact that it was every unique force unit gets a prestige art is bad and dumb, because it led to 46 arts being made, where I think, let's see, 27 of those 46 arts are Topps Chrome.
Well, it's not even all of them because they didn't even do some of them, right? That they made
Oh yeah,
Galactic Championship.
You're
Cards.
right. You're right. You're right.
So
You're
it would have
right.
been even more, I guess. But they at least had, at least they didn't do 50. They
You're
just
right.
did
You're right.
46.
I forgot.
But no, 100%. Like, again, it is a setup problem, right? It is a fundamental problem, which is, um, if they're choosing prestige cards by theme, there will always inevitably be cards that nobody really wants, but they put them in there as prestige cards because they fit the theme, right? And that will automatically create a bunch of $1, or $6 or less prestige cards, right? That probably never should have been prestige in the first place, but the only reason they're in there is because they decided to do it by theme. And that is a diminishing effect on the opening experience, which is a big part of collectors, right? Like, some collectors just collect, right? Maybe they just buy singles, they make a master set, they're collecting. But a lot of collectors are openers. They like to open things. Even if it financially doesn't make any sense, which most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah.
So the opening experience is also very important, and it really sucks when you can open 6 Carbonite packs in a row, and every prestige card you get is $2 or less because you just got Jocasta nude into, I don't know, whatever it is, right?
So I'll say this again, like I just said, I literally, as of yesterday, am getting into Magic the Gathering. And we bought Edge of Eternity's collector booster boxes because, again, I'm a whale in every sense of the word. And I opened it up. And first of all, the art there is like legitimately. I wish I even, maybe I'll go buy another one and film some B roll for when I run out of the other B roll for this so you can see the comparison. But the art is drop dead gorgeous in Magic. And
Mhm.
the other thing is, it makes no sense financially. And if you're watching this video and you don't understand what I'm saying, you're probably right. But I opened up a commander, right? So for those who don't know Magic, there's a mode called Commander where you get a special. It's basically like a Star Wars leader, and I got a like foiled alternate art version of that like commander, and it's like a decent commander. And I said I want to build my first commander deck myself with a card that I pulled. And everybody that I've told that to, they're like, "Why? Why are you gonna do that to yourself?" It's like just because like I want to. Like I pulled it. It has some sentimental value to me, and
Mhm.
I want to. And that exists for people. I know a bunch of people who I'm like, "Hey, I want to trade a showcase to you," and they're like, "Well, you know, I pull like for me, I pulled Grand Moff Tarkin in my first ever Star Wars pack, a showcase. I will never get rid of him. He's not that great of a leader. He's an iconic character, but I won't trade him for anything because I like
Mhm.
him. I like that card. So there are people that want to open cards and like play with them, and like I want to open my leaders. I want to open my showcases. I don't want to buy a showcase. I only play a showcase if I open it or earn it. Like those people exist.
Yeah, I mean, as a whatnot streamer, that is most of the people, right? Now, that is maybe again a small percentage of overall players, right? But especially the whatnot degens, like they spend a lot of money. They're feeding a lot of money in G. I mean, and me too. But like like so many people, they understand, right? They understand it's not a financially good decision, but they want to open it, right?
Yeah,
Just like Labubus, right? You can go buy any Labubu you want, but you want to open a little bit. Like that is a fundamental, maybe faulty human trait,
yeah,
right? But that is literally why TCGs are TCGs, right?
yeah.
That is why randomized products exist. And for some reason, the Star Wars community that I see talk all the time is that they just don't want that portion to exist. But it is baked into the goods. You know what I mean? Like so many people just want an LCG. Um, a lot of the players, right, that watched player-driven YouTube channels, a lot of them just want to play the game for as cheap as possible. They don't they don't care about any of the collectors. They don't even want them to exist. And it's like they want an LCG. Honestly, FFG is kind of designing an LCG. But but it's a randomized product, and they're like on that portion.
Well, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but so I used to play Legends of Runeterra a lot. It was one of my favorite card games. It's an online card game by Riot, who it is. I think, funnily enough, I think Legends of Runeterra might be the only game that Riot has ever designed that has flopped. I don't know if that's true,
because
but
it was because it was too fair with monetization,
exactly.
right?
And like you hate to say it because I don't want to come off as like the guy that wants everything to be expensive and exclusive, but one of the biggest reasons it failed is it was too free to play friendly. It's
Mhm.
the gameplay. Everybody who's played Legends of Runeterra from that I can see said the game was awesome and they loved it. The problem came down to not even a problem. It's just Riot stopped supporting it, and they I stopped playing whenever they said we're not doing PvP updates anymore. And you're like, okay, well, why? And they're like, everybody kind of said they didn't. You didn't pay for anything. Like you could literally get the entire game for maybe $40. Like in every expansion, you could, if you saved up and played enough, it was free to get all the cards and build the next decks, which is great for a player. Like for a player, it's amazing. But you have to
Mhm.
understand, if they make a living card game and everybody buys, that you spend $50 once and then, you get everything you need, the game's gonna die or not be supported as much, I believe. And I could be wrong, I could be off my rocker, but I don't think like the biggest games out there that we compare to, Magic the Gathering, trading card game, Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game, Pokemon trading card game, Flesh and Blood trading card game, right? Like, it's all randomized, and maybe that's not a good thing, but like it is, that's what it is.
100%. And again, the world, life is not A or B. Okay, and I've had, again, I feel like a lot of our conversation is correctly, right? Which is like it is not all A, it is not all B, right? There is bad. There are pros and there are cons to randomized products, right? There are pros and cons to the way Magic does it versus the way Pokemon does it, or whatever it is, right? So you're not saying, and I know you're not saying, like, just do it, we want to go full tilt on randomized product, right? Like, of course, there's this middle ground that we're all striving to get, right? And I don't want listeners to misconstrue that and being like, oh, they just want the gambling machine 100%, and it's like, no, like, there is a happy medium. Right now, I think this is kind of a tangent, but like, this is, for 30 years, people have been trying to copy Magic the Gathering. And it does not work because Magic the Gathering is special. It is special because it was first to market, has like the big, it's like when all of these students make an MMO because World of Warcraft is doing good, and except for like Final Fantasy, like nobody has been able to copy it because there is something inherent in Magic that no other TCGs have, right? And that is partially why copying collector boxes in Magic into another game is it just fundamentally doesn't work. Many people have tried, and many people have failed, and I don't think people understand. I don't think CEOs understand, right? CEOs just look at Magic, let's do collectors. Look at Topps Chrome, let's make Chrome cards. They don't understand, the CEOs don't understand. There's a reason why it works for that game and it doesn't work for it. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a huge, like, the problem, and I believe you said this in your jump to light speed Carbonite thing, is they kind of pulled the trigger on this way too early. Because collectors, you need to have a collecting market. And Magic has a collector market, and it is literally, I think, 50, 100 times bigger than Star Wars is? You will have, like, all you need is a contingent of collectors that are going to go out and buy the best cards to make them valuable. And this was something that I might cover in another video, because I know we're kind of running out of time here, but a lot of the most expensive cards in Star Wars are fake expensive, meaning you list them for $500, but not a single person is buying them. So you look at like what's being bought, and it's like one purchase for $400, and it could be a dude selling it to his buddy. Like, you never know how these like small markets can be manipulated. Going back to MMOs, like, RuneScape has the Grand Exchange, and there's actually physical evidence that smaller items in RuneScape can actually be market manipulated by a group of people. That can happen in this game. And you might be seeing a card that's like $500, and you're like, why the hell is the Judge version of Legal Authority $500? And you look and it's like one sold. It could be a guy selling it to his buddy, right? So there's not a collector scene.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a great point, because I got into like an e-fight over serialized cards with somebody on stream. And I was saying, like, serialized cards are, here's how serialized cards work, right? There are way too many, right? 250 of each card for the current number of collectors. And the reason I know that is because the first 20 get sold, right? Maybe not even 20. For some of the cards, like 2 have sold on TCG Player, and maybe like 20 have sold on Facebook or somewhere, right? Like 10% of the cards get sold at, say, $250, but 200 of them will never be sold until they're down to like $1 or less, right? Yep. So I was saying that the true value of serialized cards are actually extremely, extremely low unless you are in the first 25, because there's only 25 people, it seems, that really want a serialized card
Yeah.
at any given moment.
So this is great. This is great because I actually wanted to talk to you about this, and I want to talk about serialized cards, and then I think I want to go serialized cards, and then I have a section of like what can we do to fix things, right? But serialized cards. So literally nobody, maybe one person wants to play with serialized cards, right? So they're not. It's a player-driven game. Nobody wants to play with serialized cards. Thing two. So, and I told this story on another video, but so the number 15 Mace Windu was actually pulled on your Whatnot stream, and it was actually pulled by one of my good friends, and it actually was supposed to be mine. He told me to bid on the pack. I bid on it, and then he bid on it over me and got it, and it was the Mace Windu. So I'm not bitter, but it literally should have been mine. But I've seen it in person. One, I've got complaints about like the circles on the hands and face. It goes really well with like the daughter, the son, and the father, but it doesn't go good on some of the other showcase art. But that's kind of like they did like the same showcase treatment on all of them. But that's beside the point. But I think so. My friend, he also pulled the number 14 Darth Vader. So one of the strongest cards, number 14. I think he sold it, and he had to work his ass off to sell it. I think he sold it for $600 to a vendor. And
pretty good.
I know somebody else who's selling, like, he's been trying to sell like the number 60 Leia Organa and he has to sell it to a store. And this goes back to stores will buy showcases for, I don't want to say pennies on the dollar, but like for the price of a box. And that doesn't, like, to me, that doesn't feel great. Like, you hit what's supposed to be like, my friend hit, and I maybe the 20th most expensive card. Like, if you did every serialized number, maybe like the 25th most expensive card in the entire set with the number 14 Darth Vader, and could only sell it for $600. Like, to me, that seems a little low. But the other thing is, like, he couldn't sell it to like a player, or maybe he did, but like most of the people buying showcases or buying serialized cards seem to be vendors, not or like stores, not players, because nobody wants to play with a freaking serialized card.
Yeah, we're probably one dude who's just like insane.
Well, I know somebody said that he wanted to play, so he bought. I think, and I know I'm flipping back and forth because I got 3 different stories. I don't remember which one was true, but I guess there's one guy that might be local to me, or he might not be local to me, but he said he wanted to play with 3 serialized Darth Vader units. Which I think, as a person who plays with expensive cards myself, like I'm playing with $200, $300 cards, I think that guy's insane. But that's beside the point. Yeah, I just think serialized are 250 is too much to me. I think 250 is crazy too much.
So one of the things before Jump came out, I was looking at comps, or I was looking at Magic the Gathering serialized cards and collector boxes, and like again, like I'm a product person ish. I'm not. My main job is not product manager, but I dealt with. I'm like a customer success type person, which is kind of a fancy way of saying I just help people interact with them, right? Sure. For software, whatever. So I think a lot about. And if I was on FFG's team and I'm designing cards and product, I would look at comps, right? I would look at Magic. And Magic has had some sets where they have huge number of serialized cards. They're out of 250, and those cards also don't sell for that much. And what's crazy is they have that comp, right? They have that comp, and then they can see that Magic never did that again. Magic was like, oh shoot, this doesn't work. Let's decrease the number of serialized cards to sometimes just 3 cards per set, sometimes 1 card per set, right, with like a Chocobo or something. And let's make the number really low. That makes a lot more sense. And all of that information is already there, right? It's already there. And FFG is still like, nah, let's do it this way. And it's like that blows my mind. But fundamentally, like, of course, I agree. Like, again, it all ties together, right? There's already prestige cards that no. So when you serialize them, it doesn't automatically mean people want them unless it's an insanely heavy collector's market, which even in Topps Chrome, um, I was looking up comps of like random out of 250s, right? Or out of 200s, and they're also insanely low, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't care about out of 250. They never did, right? Like people care about
Yeah.
out of 10s, out of 5s, one of ones, right? Like,
so my brother-in-law, I didn't know this until, so he's recently my brother-in-law as of last weekend. I really like the guy, but he's a Topps Chrome collector. And I was sitting there, right? So I was in his wedding. We were sitting upstairs, and he was talking with his buddies about Topps Chrome collecting because he does that. And I was asking him all these questions because I actually, we planned on making this video all the way back then. And he was like, yeah, I've never pulled a one of one, or maybe he has, but he's like, you're looking for one of threes, you're looking for these, you're looking for that. And I was kind of asking him all these questions about like, well, what do you look for? What would make something valuable? And it's like, if you're going to do something serialized with numbers on them, they got to be low. It's got to be 8, 10, 16, right? Because 1 in 250, so there are 46 prestige cards, 250 apiece. That's 11,500 serialized cards. That's just not that exclusive to me. Like, and here's the other thing. Before we get into how to fix prestiges, there's one thing I want to cover. I'll ask you if there's anything else that we left out. But the thing that is the most surprising to me, and I think is the biggest miss, you can buy a jump to light speed, so last set 4, Carbonite booster box for under MSRP, which means they didn't sell out. At least to me, that means they didn't sell out, right? Because there's no exclusivity, there's no demand, there's more supply than there was demand. So they overprinted them.
I mean, a million trillion %. Now I will say that, to be fair, it is one of the hardest things to do in a TCG, which is to forecast demand. It is the hardest thing to do for most products in the world, right? So I will at least give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the first one, right? Us taking aside all the other things, right? Like they shouldn't have existed in the first place, they're bad, whatever. It was hard. It is hard to do that. And at least in this set, right? This set was also probably printed before Jump to Lightspeed officially came out, right? So that's why I say in my video that a lot of the supply problems I can't super harp about until starting next set, because next set will be the first set where when they're making the printing decisions, Jump to Lightspeed feedback will be out, right? Like the data will be there. So I will give them the benefit of that there. But that is, again, one of the primary differences between Magic and any other game, which is in Magic, given enough time, the Carbonite boxes will sell out and the prices will slowly creep up. It is just like Pokemon. It is a sure thing. Sounds like I'm selling you a course, right? But like it is, those markets are mature, right? We've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. Like Magic makes bad sets as well. Like I think Aether Drift was recently a pretty bad set. The Carbonites have pretty much gone down and never climbed back up again, right? But give it 3, 4, 5 years, it will do that. There is no guarantee in Star Wars that can happen. And we are only at, half a year in, right? I think, what did Jump come out in February?
March. I think March.
Okay, 4th. March. So we're not even half a year in, right?
Sure.
So I can give them the benefit of the doubt in that sense. But one of the things, I mentioned this to you a couple days ago that I did want to talk about, is like every single TCG nowadays, for better or for worse, there are many cons to this, but for better or for worse, every single TCG now is purposefully underprinting. And it is working very hard. Purposefully in the sense that they are being, they may not They may still reprint some, like in the case of Pokemon, right? But they're not going. They've all learned, which is if we underprint, like Magic collector boxes, insanely underprinted right now in relative to demand, right? Pokemon is like that. One Piece is not so much anymore, but it used to be for many years. Gundam is insane right now. Flesh and Blood is like this. Like every other TCG right now is underprinting on purpose. Star Wars is the only one that is just like full print ahead, you know? So I'm really interested in what they'll change, but I think it's a fundamental problem that they weren't more conservative with their initial number, to your original point, right? Like, I think if they were more conservative with their jump to lightspeed numbers, and at this point, right before set 5 came out, the Carbonites actually started drying up, the prices of the boxes started to go up, the singles started to dry out, prestige cards, right? It would have been a totally different ballgame for Legends of the Forest Carbonites, right? But right now, as you mentioned many times, everything's only gone down, and they have never come back up. And that is Star Wars in totality, right?
It's true.
On average, right, except for the 5 meta, you know, there's probably some meta cards that have gone up, of course, that happens, right? But in totality, on average, Star Wars has never gone up, ever.
The only time it ever went up was actually when Sparker Rebellion, like they announced no more product for 3 months because we sold out and we shot what we thought. Then I mean, you were buying Darth Vader's for $115, right? But then again, that goes back to that's like underprinting. There's not enough product. There's way more demand. Everybody wanted to play. But like in everything fair, like everything working as normal, yeah, nothing has gone up except for like a few cards that were good and then became like meta dominant, stupid, crazy good, and then they get banned and they go back to irrelevancy, right? Like that's kind of what happens.
Well, I do want to talk about that Spark thing, which is you're 100% right. I kind of but like what's crazy about Spark, okay, is this. And I haven't fully thought this through, so workshop it with me a little, okay?
Will do.
Which is it is a set that was completely out of print for 6 months, pretty much 6 months, right? Sold out initially in the first like 2 or 3 weeks, right?
Yep.
And then there was not any more product until the now aside from that initial jump, right? That initial peak, pretty much even during those 6 months of no product, it has just gone down and down and down and down, even when there was no product there. And then the reprint happened, and it goes down and down and down on average. And this is a set that is the most powerful set, the one everybody wants. And this is what I mentioned to a lot of people when they say Star Wars is growing. Because I think if you look at Spark cards on a chart, I think what it shows is that there are new people coming, and there are a lot of old people leaving. And that is why there's always way too much supply of Spark cards on the market, even when barely any boxes get opened in the last year and a half, like maybe year. And it's something I mentioned even before the reprint happened, which was like, it was a bad sign that there was infinite supply. Okay, don't misconstrue me and say I wish the supply was really low and I wanted the loot to be $1,000. Like that would have been.
So stop posting that comment right now.
Yes, but there should have been a stopping point somewhere, right? Like once it got down to a certain amount, if new players kept coming into the game, there should have been an uptick somewhere in there. You know what I mean? Given the supply and also the
we saw lack of opening. And I know this isn't foolproof, but I looked at Google Trends, right? And I know there's issues with it, but I looked at Google Trends for Star Wars Unlimited, and it was at its peak, obviously, right before pre-release of Spark, right? Like I don't think that's nothing to like, oh, that's not surprising. But what is kind of surprising to me, or not even, I guess surprising is the wrong word, but coming out of Legends of the Force, right? This new set, is like the first time that we're even getting those hype numbers. So my thought was it went Spark, new game, great. Then you did a misstep with um Shadows, because Shadows is kind of like they were kind of probably banking off like the Mandalorian being successful, and then it wasn't. And then
Mhm.
you had Twilight, which was supposed to be a banger, but A, it was super overprinted, because I think that was the first time where they got the feedback from the Spark not being printed
Mhm.
enough. So they printed a shitload of Twilight. Like, they're still giving away Twilight packs at my local game store. Like, they can't get rid of them fast enough. Like, I'm at the point where they're gonna have to pay me to take them from them. And
Yeah.
uh and the power level sucked and it was overprinted. And then you get to uh Carbonite boxes. And so it's like, okay, now jump to Lightspeed root regular boxes suck because now we have Carbonite boxes. And then now we have Legends of the Force, which is like, oh, everybody likes all these Force units. And we saw a really big uptick. I think it's like the biggest uptick we've seen, but we're still at like the uptick was, I think, 40% of like the initial hype. So I think the game basically grew, fumbled for 9 months, and then now it's starting to try and make its way back uphill. But they didn't need to cell phone themselves like they did with the printing issues and then the overprinting and then all like it's just so I think the game is growing, but it's not like it's growing based on being hurt. Like it already got set back. So we're not at the numbers it should have been, but it's not like on a downward trend anymore. It's like recovering. Maybe growing's not the right word, recovering might be the right word.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point. I do think I'm also on Google Trends right now, like clicking on other games, like seeing like what's One Piece is like, right? Like
Right.
what's Flesh and Blood's like, right? Like what's Magic kind of interest level like, right? And of course, it's like Star Wars is very much in the lower tier that Flesh and Blood is, and I'm actually surprised One Piece is around the same as as Star Wars. Um, but this is the fundamental like free bonus that Star Wars has, which is like there are so many Star Wars fans, right? This is why IP games are so sought after in TCGs, right? They do so well initially because they have just free unlimited marketing to an already set audience, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I think one of my chatters or buyers always makes this good point, which is like, why, if they really wanted more collectors, right? Why isn't there an entire advertising campaign towards the top Chrome people, right? Towards the like not playing the game, right? Collecting the game. Because it's literally billions of dollar market of those people, right? Because he's like super in tune with all the collector side of things. He buys all the collector Star Wars stuff, whether it's figurines, cards, whatever, right? He's really in tune into the collector Star Wars landscape, and he's like, most of those people have never even heard of this game,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's
And the
like,
people that do always ask me, so the people that do go, "Oh, is it Star Wars Destiny?" Like they don't
ouch,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Like they could leverage that entire portion of people. They could have designed Carbonites to get as many of those people as they could, but they didn't.
yeah. So,
And yeah,
all right. Well, I was gonna say, I know that you have a hard stop here coming up, so I wanted to
correct.
go. I know we've talked about the problems. Um,
Mhm,
I want to kind of talk about how to fix Carbonites because I know we both have ideas. So,
mhm,
um, I'm gonna go through a couple of my points and then get your reaction to them. If you have something to say about them, go ahead and jump in, and then we'll go to things that you have that maybe I didn't cover,
mhm.
and then we can talk until you have to go if that's good with you.
Perfect.
So, uh, I think we need so talking specifically about Carbonites. I think we need more hits and also less hits at the same time. I think we need to remove tier 1 prestige cards. Like they just need to go away. And I think they need to significantly change how serialized cards are. And they should only do tier 2 prestiges and keep them just as common as they are now. So that's like my first big take. Remove tier 1s, change serialized, keep tier 2s, and make those like the prestige hits.
I mean, 100%, 100%.
And I may have even stolen that from your video. I'm not sure, but I think that needs to happen.
Whether you stole it or not, we do have similar thoughts, which is like, yeah, the guaranteed prestige is just a recipe for disaster. I do think that change needs to come in combo with a few other changes, right? I think just this change itself would make opening Carbonites even worse, right? You need other hits, which is what you're saying, and you'll probably mention in the future.
Yep.
But I 100% agree.
So I would remove the theme entirely, and like, where we had very unique ships or force units, right? They get the prestige treatment. But that's when you get shit like SAS A10 or Silver Angel prestiges, which are 80 cents, right? Those remove themes, which I know I did steal from your video. So that is a 100% you point.
And I agree.
Yeah. I'd lower the number of prestiges down to maybe 20 and instead of 46. So, right, there's 46 now. You need to cut that number in half. So and make those prestiges the banger cards. And don't make them just units. Like, there's good art that could be on events and upgrades. And, we could have had a Supremacy Sideways card again in this set to keep that trend going. And, make the powerful cards that everybody wants. Make those the prestiges, not just SAS A10 or Jocasta Nu, right? So make every prestige card iconic in some way.
100%. Like, instead of thinking it by theme, they should go in order of fan favorites, right? Should have a prestige. Powerful cards should have a prestige, or whatever you call this type of card, right?
Right. Sure.
And then third should be we just have a badass artist who's going to make a badass card,
Exactly.
Whatever.
I think we also need to half the number of prestiges. That way you also give them time to, if time, we talked about, too much art in the game needs to be created. But you cut that number in half, and then you just make really badass art. I mean, you go super hard on the art, so that way you get, the new, the Galactic Super Laser Blast or the Galactic Darth Vader as the prestige card. I think that would also make them more valuable.
And I would like to add on that.
Yeah,
which is, when I say art, I think most people think of the actual art, which is, of course, important. But the treatment is also important in a TCG. And the treatment is the foiling technique, right? The different cool, if you open a One Piece set, they're always experimenting with insane treatments. Not only is the art sick, but it's this swirly foiling treatment, or this sunshine treatment, or this Flesh and Blood does cold foil, right? The art is important, but the treatment is equally as important in TCGs. And I think Star Wars has the worst treatments of any card game currently in the market.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. So I don't know if you've seen the Droid convention exclusive cards yet.
Not in person.
Yeah, so those have a really cool sparkly treatment on them that's unseen in the rest of the game. And I think they look fantastic. And I agree with you. There should have been a force, you have your normal foiling and then you have force foiling, right? Something that is different, that is a hit, is cool. Especially the one thing that we didn't touch on is foiling in this game is really bad, and it's actually going to be coming up. But the normal foiling in Star Wars makes a card unplayable. Legit, not just saying if you have a foiled card in your deck, there's a chance that a judge DQs you because it bends. It's that bad.
Right. I have heard that, and I do think Magic has a similar problem, of course, but this is a tangent, but this is this is an American or a Western world corpo problem, which is they produce a lot of cards and they want to produce them for they won't go super cheap like China because they're afraid that proxies will be made, right? But
Mhm.
they're like, there's a reason why the Japanese cards are so much better is because they invested in printers. They have heavy quality control. They try to do their best into making the stuff you're paying a fuck ton of money for quality good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a little glazing because I am obsessed with Gundam recently. But if you just touch a Gundam card or touch a One Piece card, and then you go back to touching a Magic card or a Star Wars card or Flesh and Blood card, it's like going from 3-ply toilet paper to half-ply toilet paper. It is crazy.
Yeah, and I mean that is one of the biggest issues, and like you hear people say, the foil issue has been solved. Like it's a solvable problem. Like Flesh and Blood solved it, I'm pretty sure. Like, and I'm talking a little bit out of my ass here, but like they
It
could fix
still
the
has
foiling.
problems. It still has problems with Flesh and Blood. They are working on. They haven't successfully completed it yet, but they have said they're working on a new type of foiling. I forget what it's called, like zero something foiling, so that they're completely flat, but they haven't. Those haven't been fully released. But Flesh and Blood does have problems with pringling, but I would say at least their general foiling is much better than um, Star Wars, and honestly, that's because the Star Wars cards are made in the worst Cardamundi factory, which is the newest one, the American
Oh,
one. Uh, uh, I don't know if you're on stream during Shadows, but they do print English boxes in their Belgium facility for Europe, and I imported some of those. And the foiling on the Belgium are like night and day compared to the American printers. And the Belgium printers are what a lot of Magic cards are printed on, and Flesh and Blood is printed on. Either the Belgium printers or the Japanese printers. But
okay.
Star Wars is the only one that uses the American printers, and they're
It
definitely
shows.
worse.
Yeah. Um so going on to basically every time, so just to recap, every like I'm halving the number of prestiges, but I'm making the
Mm-hmm.
art super sick and I'm making the cards good. That way if you hit a prestige, you know it's good, right? Every prestige is going to have value. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to add more hits. And I know people are already thinking, so they're typing the comment already. You don't want 10 different versions of cards, which we briefly touched on, but like the new Yoda legendary unit has
Mm-hmm.
9 different versions. 9. It's
Mm-hmm.
insane. And the prestige version isn't even the most expensive. The foil OP weekly that you get for just showing up to a weekly play, if you get the foil Yoda, it's more expensive than the prestige tier 2 Yoda, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a problem. Um, but there's a few easy layups that you could do to add value to Carbonite packs. And these are things that I came up with, and I kind of want your opinion on them, right? So I think serialized cards should be done away with completely, and they actually should be replaced with a headline, like something like headliners from Magic, which, as I understand them, basically it's a serialized card that's not serialized. It's basically alternate art, super rare, like they only print, I don't know how, like 500 of them, and
Mm-hmm.
it's one card. So for Legends of the Force, it would be like the galactic Darth Vader art, but there's only 500 of them, and they're randomly in a Carbonite pack. So if you hit them, it's like $1,000, right? It would give that
Mm-hmm.
like jackpot feeling to Carbonites, which doesn't exist. And I think that might be the biggest problem with Carbonites. There's no jackpot feeling ever the opening process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe again serialized Vader right now, um, but even then, you're comparing the jackpot feeling to the underwhelming feeling, right? Like,
Sure.
it's kind of counterintuitive, right? But if like there was only one, you're not lamenting hitting other shittier serialized cards, right?
Right.
Whereas nowadays you do have that lamenting feeling, which is not quantifiable, but it's like I hit a serial, it's a Jocasta, and it's probably worth $100. You know, like
It's the
that
number
negative feeling
168.
sucks.
Yeah, 168 Jocasta new serialized.
Yeah,
Like,
one off 69. Yeah,
yeah. I didn't even give him that. Like you didn't even get a funny number. You get some shitty 142.
57. You're
Yeah.
like, oh man,
Yeah.
like that is also part of the science in making a good opening experience, right? It is not even always tied to the monetary value. It is more tied to how many positive feelings you have and how many negative feelings you have. Probably more how many negative feelings. And some of that is tied to value, right? But that's also tied into how cool the art is. That's also tied into how many bait cards there might be, right? Like, I got a cereal, but it's a pooper that nobody wants, right? Like, all of that is important.
Yeah, and so I don't know how familiar you are with Riftbound or if you're even like looking at it, but I actually
Mm.
it's a card game that I'm really interested in. And what they do, so there's a leader system just like in Star Wars. And 1 in 3 boxes have what they call an over number version, which is just an alternate art showcase level version of the leader. So it's 1 in 3, so it's easier to find. But they have a 1 in 30 box chance of getting an overnumbered signature leader with the artist signature on it with a really cool foiling. The videos of it look sick that we've seen from the release in China. So I think
Mhm.
Blue Carbonite packs should do something like Riftbound is doing with their leaders in Carbonite packs, where you have the showcase version, which is still the same 1 in 2 boxes, but maybe 1 in 12 are either artist signature, or with Star Wars, you could have Samuel L. Jackson have his signature on Mace Windu showcases, right? Like you could
Yeah.
have 250 serialized leaders because leaders can be slabbed and played with. So those are more desirable because you can actually buy and use them, not just collect them. That would be another thing
Mm.
is like having not an alternate art version, but like a signature version of a leader, either um, artist or actor.
Yeah. I mean, if the contract allows, like, if they could get actual actor signatures, again, those Topps Chromes people might finally take notice, right? Um, I don't know if that's possible, but in an ideal world, 100%.
Well, so I mean, so at Galactics, one of the things they did is people brought the showcases to the artists that were there, and they would
Mhm.
like highlight them in gold and like sign them.
Mm.
Like you could even print them, give them to the artist, and be like, "Here's 100 of them. Can you guys just like do some cool stuff to them and like sign them, right?" Like,
Right, right.
and
Artist is cool. Sorry, I was saying actors. Actors,
oh yeah, true.
yeah, I mean,
And it's definitely easier to get artists over actors. But like something like that, right? So it's an
yeah.
autographed, touched up, cool version of a showcase, but it's still the showcase art. It's just slightly different and makes it a hair more valuable. Um, and I also have like same vein of you want a card that is valuable that can be slabbed or graded and played with. So bases, common bases
Mm.
only come in hyperspace and normal. You could have alternate art bases that come in these packs in like a hit slot. So, yeah, they're not going to go for $100, but they might go for $10, $15. So it's like, oh, I didn't get the prestige in this pack, but I got an alternate art base that you could use for trading or you could sell, right? That's another suggestion that I have that I've had a lot of people push back on, but I think like upgraded base art would be cool.
I mean, I agree that it could be cool. I do think it has the same problem, which is they may never be in a deck like the standard bases, right? Um, so like in theory, I would like the rare bases, if they're good rare bases, which they also have a problem with making dog
That's
beauty
true.
rare bases, um, would be cool. But I mean, my philosophy is the more hits, the more type of hits, the better. They shouldn't be extremely common, right? Like I think that to me, that's one of my main points in the video, which you're saying as well, which is like there needs to be more hits that are harder to hit rather than hits that are super common nobody wants, right?
Exactly.
Um,
And I think going so basically it goes make showcases more valuable, make cool either rare or common bases, and then also maybe add like a cool token slot cuz Star Wars is getting a bunch of cool tokens and just make like a prestige art token slot that can fit in somewhere, right? Yeah, they might not be that valuable and people are still going to buy off Etsy for proxies, but you could find somebody that's like, "Oh, I really like this clone trooper token. I'll trade you a legendary for 4 of them," right? Like that could happen. And that's right, it doesn't it feels good. They're usable, they're playable, they're tradable. They're not Jocasta new. And I think
I feel bad ragging on Jocasta. There are 10 other cards in the same
you're right,
committee.
but it's the funniest.
To your point though, Flesh and Blood have these cards called Marvels, right? Like if you've never seen a Flesh and Blood Marvel, they are like full art, cold foil, oftentimes double-sided. They're just like some of the sickest looking cards of all time. And they do also do tokens. And a lot of times the tokens, which are used very heavily in certain heroes in Flesh and Blood, like they're super desirable. And even if they're not, they look freaking awesome and they'll inherently have value. So I 100% agree on tokens. Like a shield, like a shield Marvel or shield prestige, whatever you want to call it. Or not shield. Well, even, I mean, like
Yeah.
I know people use little tokens now, right? But if
Yeah.
you made like a badass shield art card, you know, like
People might use it.
maybe people would use those.
Like maybe make it even transparent or something that you can stick on top of the card and it's like cool, like you know, it's like gives like there are ways that you could do some cool stuff. And I've like you said in one of your videos, biggest self-own, they aren't like leaders and bases are the two easiest ways to have made Carbonite packs like amazing because they're slabbable, like Flesh and Blood. I was talking to the Flesh and Blood people, and they said some of the most expensive cards are start and play equipment cards because you know you get to show them off. And it's not uncommon that the really expensive ones are in slabs, and people play with them. You can do that with bases and leaders in Star Wars. There's no reason not to. And the fact that they haven't touched bases, like the fact that their Carbonite product philosophy was, how about we remove bases entirely? So you don't even get bases. You don't get common bases in a Carbonite pack. When they could have done it the opposite and made those bases good.
Yeah. Oh, and you remind me of a point, which is like, again, like the Carbonites had cons for regular boxes, and one of the big cons is showcases, right? They tank the value of showcases. If they had said, here is an like showcase plus, right, that you can get in Carbonites, but only that are ultra hard to hit, right? I believe that would have solved a lot of those issues, which is regular showcases, people still need to open regular boxes to get them, right? So they wouldn't have tanked, and it gives people a reason to open regular boxes. But if you get like an ultra hard one in every 20 Carbonite box showcase plus, and only for like the top 4 leaders or what, top 6, you know, maybe not all of them.
Like you choose 4 leaders or something.
Yeah, like the ones you think are more powerful or again iconic or something. Like I think that would have been a way better process to improve, like without tanking regulars and also giving something else to hunt for, right?
Yeah, and because whenever I offer up the idea of like there should have been a extra, like there should be a showcase plus version in Carbonites, the pushback I get is, well, I don't want showcases to feel bad. Well, the way that you're basic and obviously then it would tank the value of showcases and even tank the regular boxes more. But if you're saying don't put showcases in Carbonites, put showcase plus in Carbonites, normal showcase in regulars, I think that might actually solve the issue of it would actually make people go, well, I want this showcase art for Avar Chris, who's not the showcase plus. So I'm going to open up my regular boxes, or you got to buy it on TCG Player and it's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, my pushback to that commenter would be like, Carbonites have already the fuck showcases, right? Like,
Yeah.
You can't say I don't want showcases on less desirable. They already are. Like, so, like for me, 100%. Like, if you're a Dolphin and you want to buy a showcase, you are now. I don't think much would change. I mean, obviously, for some of those 4, like it would lower a little bit, right? But if you make the pluses significantly get, if you really want to ball out, and some people do, right? I want to buy the $800 version of Darth Vader, right? That everybody can look at and I can look at.
Right, exactly. And I think that would be a good thing. Like, I think that would be, I don't want to say healthy, but who knows? It might also make collectors want to come to the game because it's like this really, really unique and desirable thing. And then on the flip side of that, because I know you're gonna have to leave soon, is uh you could take those same Showcase Plus and make them the tournament prizes, right? So
Mm.
there is a guaranteed way to get them for good players, and then those good players could sell them. Because I know another tension point in Star Wars is the tournament prizing is pretty lackluster, which is going to be in a separate video. But um, so if you, that's literally everything that I had to talk about. Is there anything left that you that we didn't cover that you want to talk about before we end the video?
I mean, honestly, I think we've talked about most of the things I want to talk about. I really just do want to thank you for
Yeah,
giving me the opportunity to get a lot of this stuff off my chest.
yeah,
And I think you made a lot of really great points. I'm sure once this call ends and I'm on my way to dinner, I'll be like, oh, shoot, I should have talked about some other things. So maybe one day we can have another conversation. But I really do, I do want to end it by saying that, you know, I think what's important to understand about this conversation, if you made it this far, is again, this is about a product that FFG voluntarily made. And it cannot be understated that this product is a $300 MSRP product. Okay. You mentioned Riftbound. Those are regular boxes where you can get stuff in.
yeah,
Every Bandai game, One Piece, Gundam, all of those cards, some of the coolest fucking cards I've ever seen in my life, Flesh and Blood, they all come in regular boxes. They are not charging $300 for them. And I think that is often forgotten and uncared about when criticizing Carbonites, which is that this was a voluntary choice FFG made. We are paying an obscene premium for them. And that accentuates a lot of the issues within the product. And I think that's very important to always think about when
yeah.
talking about
And
Carbonites.
they invented all the problems themselves, right? This isn't like any like this is inherent. We made the product, we made the issues, and I believe that only Magic and Star Wars right now have like these $300 collector boosters.
Yes.
Like so? Why does Star Wars need them when One Piece doesn't, or when Flesh and Blood doesn't, or when right like they're trying to go after collectors and they're not. And I think there's ways to
Yeah.
make Carbonites better, but I don't know.
Oh, I think the thing is, it's not that Magic wants them, because I think a lot of Magic players still hate boxes. It's that they can get away with them because they have so many collectors in them. If Pokemon decided to make a Pokemon collector product, it would sell fucking gangbusters. But that is like against their philosophy, right? But Pokemon could get away with it if they wanted to. 100%. I think One Piece is at a point where if they also wanted to make an ultra rare a collector box of One Piece for each set, they could also get away with it, right? To me, it is about the number of collectors that are currently in the game. And Star Wars just does not have remotely close to the number of collectors needed to make a Carbonite box work. And kind of going back on this closing statement, which is like, one of the things they should have done, which they cannot do now, is you mentioned it's too early for Carbonites. Like, they should have stabilized regular booster boxes first before Carbonite should have happened.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, all of that stuff is in pre-production. I get why they couldn't change it, right? But like, the worst thing to ever happen, I think, was going from Twilight to Carbonite. So like, I
yeah,
think that 1-2 punch was just was not a death knell. Again, I think the game is going to live around for a while, but from a hype perspective, I think it really really was like a 1-2 punch. Um, because you mentioned this earlier, which is like a lot of people who buy Carbonites, I know for a fact, as a seller of them, buy less each set. And sooner or later, you're going to run out of players coming in to buy a lot of the newest set, right? Like, I noticed when selling Legends of the Force, a lot of the people who bought a lot they were relatively new, right? All the people that bought Jump to Lightspeed Carbonite boxes bought significantly less this time because they know how it feels to lose 60% of the value in a month, right?
mm-hmm.
And next set, all these Jump to Lightspeed or all these Legend of the Force people are going to buy less of the sixth set, and so on and so on. And so they need these new people to come in. And I'm not sure if the game can um, sustain that, right, in the short term,
I
let alone the
think
long term.
my prediction, and then I'll let you go, is I think you're gonna see a drastic, not a gradual, a drastic drop off in Carbonite sales between Legends of the Force and Shadows of the Galaxy. Not Shadows of the Galaxy. It's Secrets of Power, because it's not it's politics themed, which I think is cool, but a lot of people don't. And
Mhm.
unless the treatments are like badass, and if they stay on course and do the same shit that they did for Legends of the Force, I think you're gonna see a drastic drop off in Carbonites. Personally, like I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
like a bloodbath.
I think I agree. I think there's three things working against it. Two you mentioned, right? Like the theming of the set is not as interesting. Uh, the feels badness, right, of the last two sets is important. But I think again, what people forget is that the third set of the year is around for the shortest period of time.
That's a
And
great point.
one day I want to talk about rotation because I think it's going to be a problem. But I think that I'm going to buy significantly less just to even sell. And I fully agree that assuming no changes are made, right? Which I think is the assumption, right? That most
Yes,
people
yeah.
think they're going to change it up for set seven if they do at all. Um, I fully agree. I fully agree that it's going to be, but maybe that helps, right? Maybe if less people buy it, there's less singles on the market, they'll be worth a little bit more, might instill a little bit more confidence. But that is all on the determination that stores don't have a bunch of product that they can't sell and have to dump on the market, right? Because if they do get a lot of product that they just have to dump on the market, again, you're getting Carbonite boxes for 200, $200 now, and that's really going to feel terrible.
So I think, yeah, I agree with you, and I think they're doing an art stream August 27th, I think, something like that, later this month. So
Mm.
if you enjoyed this, I mean, I'll invite you right now. I will love to do a like right after the art stream, if they talk about prestiges and everything like that. I think it'd be great to get on and talk about, did they make any corrections? Have they course corrected, or are they on the same path, and what we predict is going to happen? Because I think last art stream that they did, they announced the prestiges and what the prestiges look like. So I think,
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would love to, because I don't keep track of that stuff 100%, but it really felt like for set five, they delayed the reveal of what's in a prestige box really late in the cycle. I could be wrong on that, but it really felt that because we saw a couple of jump to lightspeed serials pretty, or it's not serials, but prestige cards really early. I want to say that they waited a decent amount of time for the last set. So if they're revealing it early, like in August, right? Well, I guess it's September that it releases. Oh wait, it's November, right?
it's
November
November,
the
yeah.
sets come out. Yeah, if they release it in August, I actually think that would be really, really, maybe that's confidence.
I don't know. It could be,
Would
and
love
I
to
could
talk
just
about
be lying. Like, it could just be that they're just revealing normal art, but they could be talking about prestige art. But regardless, yeah, I'll love to have you on and do talk about rotation, talk about anything. So I appreciate you coming on and spending 2 hours talking to me about this. Uh, so thank you so much, and I will again go ahead and plug your whatnot and YouTube channel.
I'll just do a YouTube because I don't want to. I sometimes feel bad about promoting and whatnot
That's fair, understandable.
because it feels like a lot of people be like, "Oh, your opinions don't matter because you just want to." Which,
Yeah,
by the way, yes, we want the game to sell. Like stores want the game. But my YouTube is I open TCGs. I really don't make too many videos. I'm not even. I'm just a ranter, and I open boxes sometimes. That's me.
yeah. I mean, I enjoy your videos, and I actually, I knew your YouTube before your whatnot, and then I was like, wait a minute, that voice sounds familiar. So I think you do great, and I have no desire to play Gundam, but I've been watching a lot of your Gundam stuff, and yeah, I look forward to seeing more videos from you in the future, and I'd love to have you on again.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure, and truly, your videos are awesome. They're so much better than I could ever imagine making it. And yeah, love your stuff. Thank you so much.
All right, and with that, everybody, so I'm gonna sign off, and I know that probably 0 people are watching to 2 hours and 15 minutes. But if you stuck around this much, thank you so much for watching. Consider joining the Discord, and tell me what you think you would like to see in Carbonites. Were we wrong? Did you like our opinions? All that. So, see you, everybody.